Gentleman from Michigan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the gentleman being here on the panel, and I've really been enjoying all the questions. It's great to see this bipartisan participation. As you may know, I represent Michigan's 1st District. We have a Big Rock Point, which we have a photo of here, which is one of the decommissioned plants that's actually been decommissioned in 1997, and then for the last 15 years has been sitting there with these dry casks. And the site originally took up about 400 acres, and now there's 300 acres that have been turned to the natural state. But unfortunately, there's these 8 casks of 19 feet tall and 160 tons that don't have a home, and it costing us millions of dollars a year to protect that site. And I know that we can't make it disappear, but I'm a little frustrated over the fact that there's a lot of talk and there doesn't seem to be much action. And how soon are we going to get going on this plan to cite this? I mean, are we talking to communities already? I mean, we've seemed that you have an idea of how to do this. There's eight points and from below up, getting everybody involved. But I kind of share Mr. Hall's concern that we've sort of done this a little bit, and then the state changed their mind, or political considerations have taken place, and my district has got these 8 casts in, and there's lots of other places around the country that are the same. So what can we do this year, Mr. Meserve?
Well, I do think that there are some things we can do that are productive. We can start the process, the department could start the process of trying to engage with communities to try to identify interest and being able to proceed. There is a possible barrier that's created by present law, that the law that governs Yucca Mountain, the same statute, provided that there would not be an opportunity to create a storage location until there was a license for a disposal site. I think the thought in the Congress is that people might just grab the storage site and not proceed with the disposal site, which you obviously have to do, and that we're afraid it would disrupt a program that leading towards creation of a disposal site. I can't comment on what the thought of the Congress was at the time that this provision was put in place, but I believe that was what was underway. So that there are some needs that are squarely within the jurisdiction of this body to try to help the very legitimate concern that your community feels about having this site with a deal that they'd made to have a nuclear power plant there, but not to be a long-term site that was holding this fuel with land that could well be used for much more valuable purposes.
It's on the shore of Lake Michigan, for crying out loud.
Yep.
Mr. Lyons, you have an idea, it sounds like.
Well, the point I'd like to make, Mr. Benishek, to follow on the point that Dr. Meserve made, is really what he was discussing is why, in my remarks, I emphasized that as we work towards preparing for Congress an administration strategy which is due within 6 months, it can't be just the administration. There's going to have to be close cooperation with Congress as we work together towards a package that can lead towards a future to address the concerns that you're describing. But just as Dr. Meserve described, creating the site that you'd like us to create is blocked by the Nuclear Waste Policy Act. And that's just an example of why working together is essential.
Can't we be doing all these things at the same time? I mean, that's what can't we be searching for sites, coming up for licenses, working out a plan instead of like doing one thing and then the other? I mean, I want to know what I can do to make this process go forward, and would be happy to try to address this legislation that you're talking about. I mean, I just need some ideas.
Well,
I think there's a chicken and egg problem here, and that I don't think that it may be very difficult to have a community agree to have a storage site without them having some confidence, well, it's just going to be a storage site. It's not going to be a site where this material is going to sit indefinitely. And so I think that we do emphasize, in one of our strong recommendations, is that we ought to proceed with all speed to try to identify a disposal site. And having that program in place, we hope would be reassuring to a community that would contemplate a storage site, and they could have some confidence that the material having moved there wasn't going to mean it stayed there forever. Of course, it could be that the storage site is the disposal site. We don't foreclose that option. But I think there's a lot of flexibility that has to exist and work that this entity that we describe would pursue to try to find a willing community to be able to take these sites.
Thank you. I think my time is up, but I'm looking forward in this committee to be working on legislation and try to make this process move faster. Thank you.
I thank you, and I thank you for your questions. The General mentioned community support. I might mention community opposition, too, is pretty strong. And maybe, Mr. Benishek, if you were President of the Senate, we might get that spent fuel moved a little bit quicker.